My name is Wyatt Cenac.
It's going to be so loud when he's wearing headphones.
The loud.
Yeah.
I'm like, I forgot about that part.
That's how I'm gonna answer every question. I'm just gonna grab the phone. So I was thinking.
So as this is obviously a new show, can you introduce it to us, how it evolved, and tell us a bit about your character as well? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, well, I wrote it. I thought it'd be a fun idea, and I wrote it in my basement and in my kitchen, and I was like, oh, this will be good. This will be a fun show. I like the idea that I like writing about groups of people and groups of normal people, and I like that they might be struggling with something really big and complicated and like a giant sci-fi conceit. I had read about alien abduction support groups and thought that would be a good thing to set a show around, and then I took a crack at it, and it worked out.
Yeah, and I think, at least for my character in the show, my character is a skeptical journalist who travels upstate. My character is a skeptical journalist who travels upstate from Manhattan to spend time with this support group for people who claim to have had alien abduction experiences, and he's very wary going in. He thinks it's a group of weirdos, and kind of walks out afterwards thinking he might be a weirdo himself. And I think that goes to kind of what David was saying as far as characters and looking at groups of people, that idea that it's very easy for someone to point and say, oh, well, you're weird because you're into this. But once you spend a little time in that world, you realize, oh, there's maybe something that makes me weird too. I think that's kind of the fun thing, even being at some place like this, like Comic-Con, where you can watch somebody walk around. It's just like, wow, you really are going hard for Doctor Who. Like, who could do that? And then you're like, well, but I actually, I'm really into Game of Thrones. Am I any different? So, yeah.
Who would you go hard for at Comic-Con then?
Wow, that got real. This just got real. In general, I don't know. Jeez, we've been talking a lot about Batman issue 1. That seems to be a thing that would be a cool thing to see. It's my first Comic-Con, so I kind of feel like, and I haven't even really been in there, so I kind of feel like I'm describing something that I've never seen or actually done, but I'm about to be. So I can text you when I'm on the floor. I'll be like, I want to go all in on Pokemon.
Well, just take his phone. I think he's offered it up, so you can just take it.
This is really nice. I muted at 6.
I was going to say you're welcome, but you're not.
Wait, what?
Did you go to any alien support groups? You said you heard about them. Where do you find out about them?
I just read a lot about them. There's a really good online community of people who have been abducted or claim to have been abducted. There's a lot of really good chat rooms about it, and there's good Facebook pages about it, and there's a decent amount of this book, Communion, is great. They actually have a transcript from an alien abduction support group at the end of the book. It's a surprisingly common thing, more than you would think.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what surprised you the most about reading these transcripts or whatever?
What surprised me the most was the normality of it. Because it's people that are they're normal, and they said, something happened, I don't understand it, I sleep with the lights on, everyone around the group's like, lights on. And then, I live in cities because I don't want to be in areas that are like dark and in the middle of the night. And the thing that struck me about it and impressed me the most about it is the vulnerability. To say this thing is terrifying to me and it happened, and have other people understand that and support it, to me is really moving. And I think it's a pretty moving thing to tie a sci-fi conceit to. You can go in a lot of different directions that way, but I think the most interesting direction to go in that way is something really human and tells kind of smaller personal stories using this insanely overwrought device of aliens. visiting Earth.
The series is only 10 episodes long. Did you find that constraining for the storytelling, or was that a good sort of framework to approach the first season?
I think it's a good framework. I think you find you have to make it fit, and it's once you get your head around the episodes, the kind of story scales itself to that. And I definitely would love to have more story than episodes instead of the opposite. So it feels like it's a good number, and it leaves enough that you can end it with some gas in the tank for if we were lucky enough to get a season 2.
How did you pitch the show to TBS?
TBS, let's see, I wrote it. So I sent it to David Kissinger and Larry Sullivan, who work at Conan O'Brien's production company. And it was like, hey, I'm writing this thing, I don't know if you guys are interested in it. And they read it and they liked it. And they gave it to Conan, and he read it and he liked it, which is crazy to me. And then Greg is friends with Conan, and I kind of sold the idea as like a Greg Daniels style human comedy mixed with a J.J. Abrams Magic Box show. And Greg, turns out, he was interested in it and wanted to do it. And I think it's much easier to pitch something from my perspective if you have a script and you're like, this is what it is. It's not going to be something totally different. There's the idea. You can read it. If you like it, great. If not, that's fine. So I think the pitch was really just like telling people it's an alien abduction support group. And it turns out that we dismiss them, but on some level we find out that they are actually right. There are aliens. And then there's so many ways that idea can be, any idea really, but it's a flighty idea. There's so many ways it can be bad or not work. Even writing it is like, I don't know if it's going to work. So actually having a script and being able to have them read it after that pitch was, I think, the plan of attack there for me. Yeah.
How did you get involved in the project?
I got involved. There was a lotto, and I got involved because David, when he wrote the script, he had said that he had thought of me for the role, and so they reached out to me, and I read it, and I met with David, and I think we talked for a while about it and what he wanted the show to be, and it seemed he was very passionate about it, as well as all the people at Conoco, and I know Greg as well. Greg and I had worked together at King of the Hill, and so it seemed like a good group of people, and they all seemed, very passionate about something, and that's what you want. You want people to be into the project, so yeah. Exactly.
What went through your mind the first time you read the script?
I think when I first read it, I thought I think the first thought was, oh, it's cool that it'll shoot on the East Coast because I don't really like to travel. But beyond that, it was a very sweet story. It was funny, but it was also, there was something sweet underneath and just real underneath. I think, to some of what David was saying, there's no real manual for being human, and so we all try to understand it in our own way, and as we do that, you want other people to connect with, and you want other people to feel like, okay, I'm doing humanity right because these people think the same way I do, or they have the same issues I do, and that interest in trying to tell stories that sort of promote a sense of empathy in the viewer among the characters, and that to me seemed interesting, and it seemed like it would be a cool thing to try to be involved with.
So how'd you like working with the whole cast? They have a bunch of comedians, so...
There are a lot of comedians, and it's a very talented group of people, and I think what's nice is that it's been an incredibly sort of relaxed environment that, you know, we're doing the script, but there is room to play. And what's nice is you can kind of throw something at somebody, and whether it's, you know, just sort of going off script with Anna, or just watching somebody like Brian Husky goof off for a while, you have the freedom to do that. And I think even in the way that we're shooting it, we're trying to shoot it in much more practical kind of sets where it's not a set where the walls slide out so we can move lights in and do all that. No, let's try to build a real room so that we can all be in the space and sort of interact in that space and not feel like, oh, I can't run over there because there's a C-stand in the way.
Which of the characters were you most excited to kind of find out about their backstory? Was there any that stood out for you?
I think there's Alice Wetterland's character, Kelly, is an interesting character because she seems to be, you know, a person who's unlucky in love and life, and is that person that it's maybe in a bit of a state of arrested development that you feel like when you read her character, it's kind of like, oh, you should leave this town. Like, you've got so much more, but what's keeping you here? And so trying to figure out what's keeping her, and Anna's character as well. I think, you know, there's something that's really interesting with Anna's character is, you know, she's a somewhat failed, you know, not so great therapist who has taken charge of a therapy group, but a therapy group that no other therapist would theoretically want to touch. And so I think there's something that's kind of fun in that, of just even watching her character explore that, you know, I think what's kind of fun, and it seems like we're sort of exploring there, is just this idea that here's this woman who's, you know, maybe thinks of herself as an expert, but to the rest of the, you know, counselor community, they might see her as a bit of a joke, but to the people in that room, they may take what she says somewhat seriously, and just that balance of things that, you know, there's something no one ever thinks about, like a psychiatrist, and thinks like, oh right, they have home lives that they go to where they're probably dysfunctional in their home lives, and so there's something kind of nice about seeing that, but played out in this with these characters and with somebody like Anna's character.
And we've heard that we see the aliens at some point. How did you come up with the look of the aliens? Did you always notice that?
No, it was like challenging. I think the thing was just to stick to what's existing. So there's like greys are normal, are like giant eye gray aliens. You know, like the lore, and then there's reptilians who are snake people that can disguise themselves like humans, kind of like these. And there's in the lore is also Nordics, these tall, long-haired aliens called Nordics or whites, and they're supposed to be very tall and very empathic and very light-skinned. So in a way, it's using what's actually out there to dictate it. But we actually, for the look of Jeff the Grey, Greg Daniels sketched something on like a cocktail napkin, almost kind of a thing, and we ended up using that for the look of it. And he's
so
amazing.
He looks like a cocktail napkin.
He looks like a cocktail napkin. Yeah. You're gonna be very disappointed. Yeah. It actually,
or maybe
is just
you'll
a
love it.
cocktail.
You'll love it. It's
If
a
you
giant
like
cocktail napkin with a drawing on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you like minimalism and very, very hard art films, you'll love this.
So there are different sorts of aliens that we see, right?
Yes.
Those are the three. Those are the three. I think you get in a little bit of trouble when you start going and you're like, we can do anything. This one's purple and he flies. And then I think you're kind of out of gas at that point.
And it's something that we've got to ask, do you believe in life out there? Sorry, you've probably answered this so many times.
No.
But
sure, yeah, totally. Yes, I do. I think that why not? Why wouldn't there be? I don't see a reason why there shouldn't be.
I've been asked it a bunch, and so I will give you my stock answer, which is that I feel it's a fairly arrogant position to assume we are the only beings out there. Maybe we are, but that feels like that's like, you know, living in a forest and assuming that there aren't any cities outside of that forest and there aren't people in those cities, and maybe they're aliens, maybe they're not. You know, maybe they don't necessarily look like us or look humanoid. Maybe they're, you know, small microscopic things. Maybe they're beyond even our sort of our view or larger than we think. It's so. Yeah, my own sort of point of view and would allow me to think, oh yeah, I can't believe we're it and we're the best the universe has to offer. So,
which of the 3 aliens in the show would you most like to meet?
None of them. They're all disgusting. I want to meet some of those Captain Kirk lady aliens that he winds up getting drinks with. That's what I want to meet.
60s Star Trek.
Yeah.
I think that I would have a drink with any of them. I like all of them. I like all my children equally.
Actually, one thing I didn't know, how do you define the comedy of the show? Is it dry humor? Is it a mixture?
I think deadpan's good, dry's good, warm. There's a special thing about I think Wyatt and Conan and Greg's sense of humor, and I think it's to me what makes them my heroes in a lot of ways. Where if you can be really smart, and you can also be kind of deadpan, but also warm. That's a really great combination, and that really excites me. And that's a quality I'd love this show to have.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Have a great day.